Today is Saturday, October the 13th, 2018, and we are at the Community Media Center in Westminster, Maryland. I'm Gary Livingood, and I'm interviewing Gary Hammett from Westminster relative to his experiences in the military. Gary, when did you join the service?
I joined June 10th, 1964, 5 days after I graduated high school.
And you were not drafted, but rather you joined?
Yes, sir. At that time, I think basically most of the kids that went in the military wanted to go ahead and get it over with, so they'd come back out and then they could get a job and wouldn't have to worry about being drafted and get away from their job and maybe lose it permanently. I think that was the motive back in '64, but everything has changed.
What branch of service did you join?
I joined the Marine Corps because of my uncle. He was #1 reason why I joined the Marine Corps. He was in 3rd Marines, which I didn't know. He was on Peleliu and Macon. He was in the Air Force. I mean, not the Air Force, aviation part of the Marine Corps. But I just found out the other day he was in 3rd Marines too. So that's what I was in, 3rd Marines for a long time.
And where did you do your basic?
I did basic South Carolina. We were in the battalion they called Disneyland because we had the brick buildings. Battalion 1 and 2 had the old wooden barracks, and one was called Dodge City and the other one was called Tombstone. And as I said, we had the brick buildings, which was easy to clean, and they called it Disneyland. But now I hear that each battalion has their own brick buildings with air.
What was your MOS?
When I first went in, I had to take a lot of paperwork, but finally ended up being 0311, which was basic infantry. And after that, I went to Camp Pendleton. And I was in the 1st Marines, 2nd Battalion, and they made me an automatic rifleman, which was, it was a magazine fed, but it was almost like an M60, but it wasn't. It was a rifle instead of a machine gun. So they called it an automatic weapon. And that was my position in the squad.
And where was your, what was your duty station after, I heard you say Pendleton. Where'd you go after that?
We was at Pendleton from, I graduated in August, went back out in 1st of October, and was there till January at Pendleton. Then we went overseas to Okinawa. We stopped at Hawaii first, then we stopped in Japan, and then we went into Naha, Okinawa, and we went up to where the 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines were stationed on that island, which was north, the most furthest base north on the island.
Okay, and could you describe some of your experiences while you were there?
Well, basically it was company maneuvers and platoon maneuvers, and then later on we went to a place called NTA, Northern Training Area, where we learned to try and walk through the woods and the gullies and all at night without letting you know that we were coming and the enemy wouldn't surprise you, because at the time we didn't know why we were doing it, but they made us do it anyway. That was a month-long training camp. And we had one company that was supposed to be the enemy, and we had to find them to knock them out. But it was a lot of fun, but it was also kind of dangerous. We had a guy fall down in a gully, dislocated his shoulder, and this was the nighttime. And we had a Thailand from their military to show us basically how to do it at night without making a lot of noise. But that didn't ever happen.
And ultimately then from Okinawa, where did you go?
We went into Chulai, south of Da Nang, and we was there to guard the airfield, like 9th Marines went in April to guard the Da Nang airfield. Now, we went in May only because the airfield at Chulai wasn't really set up yet. They were having trouble with the tarmac. Every time a jet hit it, the tarmac would fly up. So it wasn't used to bring in guys to to guard the airstrip if it wasn't working. So they finally had it working in a month, and that's when we got called in to guard the air base down in July.
And that was May of what year?
65.
65. And the U.S. presence in Vietnam at that point in time was what?
Just 3rd Marine Division.
That was
it.
That was it.
Yeah, 9th Marines were in Dang. We were in July. I Corps. They called it I Corps. And that was basically our TO, operation area that we operated in.
Okay. And how long were you there?
Not quite 12 months. I came home in February of 66.
Okay. So I assume that during that year period you saw a buildup of personnel.
Well, we built, basically, but the battles that we fought were mediocre compared to what happened after we left. Because, like you say, it was building up at the time. And I don't think Charlie had his act together at the time. But evidently he did pretty good in August. We had the first major offensive in Vietnam, but didn't have all the media coverage that Colonel Moore had at the Tri Valley, because they went against the North Vietnamese. We went against a reinforced Viet Cong unit, something like our National Guard or Reserve. We went up against them right below Chu Lai. It was called Operation Starlight. I forget who our 3rd Marine Division commander was at the time, but he made commandant. When he left Vietnam, he became the commandant of the Marine Corps. But that was the first major offensive in Vietnam, but you don't hear too much about it because of the media. It wasn't really built up like it was after 66. That's when the media really started to come in. And the highlight of the Marine Corps was Way and Tet. That's when we got most of our coverage, was the Tet, but at Way. During the rest of the war, you really didn't hear too much about the Marine Corps, the battles they fought and what they won. So it's kind of upsetting,
How long did you stay in the service?
6 years. I did 4 active. I did 2 non-active. I made staff sergeant in the reserves. And I came home. I need 3 lance corporal. And I went to Camp Lejeune. And I made E4 and E5 down there in less than a year. But if I knew what I knew then, I'd have probably stayed in, because all my commanding officers I had at that time were putting me up for staff sergeant on active duty, but I didn't know it, because anybody from E5 and above, they didn't challenge you to stay in. It was E4 and below. They would call you up to the office and say, "Oh, how would you like to ship over for another 2 or 4 years?" But if you were E5 and above, they never asked you. That was your privilege of asking to ship over if you wanted to. So I just got out, went into the reserve unit. But I should have stayed there, but like a dummy,
And you were in the reserve unit
2 years.
where?
Down at Perry Parkway, 8th Engineer Battalion.
Okay. And your experiences in the Marine Corps and in Vietnam, any lifelong effects?
Yeah, I still think about the guys I made friends with, and they didn't come home, have a chance to live a full life, to have a wife, kids, grandkids. Especially my friend from Canada. He didn't have to really be there. He was working in Utah at the time, and they drafted him, which really surprised me. And I asked him, I said, why are you staying there? I said, you could just went back home and, just flipping my bird. Said, no, I ain't going, in the Corps or any branch. And he said, this is a beautiful country. They treated me good. I got good pay. He said, I owe the country something. So that's why I joined. And he actually got killed in Starlight. And his parents came down to my house in 1981. Then in 1988, I think, or 89, I went up to their house in Calgary, Canada. That's where they lived. Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. That's where they lived. And I went and visited them.
And after, well, you were in the reserves, but what line of work did you get into after service?
I took a test. I wanted to be a state cop. I really wanted to be a state cop. That was my whole thing. I wanted to be a state cop. But in the interim, they sent me, well, I wanted to be in the FBI originally, either a ballistics expert or something to that fact, but I needed 4 years of college. Whatever I wanted to do in the FBI, I needed 4 years of college, and I didn't have that. So then I went to the Postal Service, took their test, came home, took the test, and then I tried to get in the state police when I got out, but I was too short. I was 4 inches too short. At that time, it was 5'10". I was only 5'6". But I ended up passing the post office test, and I got called for, to Reisterstown office in October of 1968. I mean, 68. And I worked down there for 31 years. I got 37 total in the Postal Service.
Okay.
And I was a carrier on the street.
For all that time?
All that time. I was on one route for 31 years.
Well, you probably have some stories to tell from that.
I met a lot of nice people. You know, I think out of all the people, I only had 2 really bad instances in that 31 years. But they really treated me great. I couldn't have found a better route in that area. They really, and most of them were, 60% were retired, which made it great. You know, and I did a lot of things for them. I helped one guy build him a carport. I had another lady, I helped her with her mother at nighttime. She would call me 4 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, my mom's out of bed. She's hanging onto the bureau and like a lion, and she won't let go. I'd go up to the house and I'd sweet talk her back to get into bed, and then her daughter would put her in bed, and I'd go back home until 5 o'clock, get up next morning, go to work.
But that had to feel rewarding.
Yeah, it was nice, yes. I was doing, besides just being delivering the mail on time, no mistakes, blah, 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 that gave me a feeling of I was doing something for the community and putting back into the community.
How would you describe the mail system today?
You don't really want to know. Every time I'm out or something, I have a person from my area, if they just bump into me, when are you coming back? So, I'm sorry, I did my time. So, yeah.
Well, overall, what your experience or your feelings about your experience in the military as compared to maybe what's happening in today's environment?
Well, I consider the military opened a lot of doors for me, you know, except for because I was short, I couldn't get to state police. But anyway, I think it opened up a lot of doors for me as far as jobs went here and there. Some I turned down. Tried to go to local department here, police work. But after a while, I had too much time in the Postal Service. I didn't want to give up that time to start a new career. So I just stayed where I was. But I had the opportunity to do it because I think because of the background. I was in the Marine Corps, I was infantry, I was a combat veteran, and this helped the process. But I would do everything over again, except I just stayed in reserves this time. The only reason why I didn't stay in reserves, they gave me E6, staff sergeant. I went out and talked to one of the guys at the recruiting station down there, 8th Engineers. I said, if I sign up for 2 years, what happens? He said, well, we're going to have to take your rocker away from you. And I said, why? He said, well, the only way you can keep your rank, if you come right out of the military and do active reserves, you keep your rank. So they were told I said, well, you just promoted me to staff sergeant. You want to take it away from me if I want to come into certain reserves? I said, no. I said, that's okay. I'll just keep my rank and settle with that. And no, I got out of staff NCO. So.
Okay. Well, what types of things maybe have I missed here that I haven't discussed with you that you would like to expound upon relative to your time be it in service or subsequent to service?
I had some good times and some bad times. The bad times when, like I say, my friend got killed. But we had some good times. I used to remember my mom said, "Send me some beech nut chewing gum," and she asked me why. I said, "Just send me some beech nut chewing gum." And we go through the village, and I could get a fifth of whiskey for 2 packs of gum. So that was one of the enjoyments, you know. And we had some good times. Like I say, we had some bad times. But I think it was like 50-50. But the heat and the smell was awful. I mean, it was just, and the rain. Once the monsoon season came, it was like being 40 below here. I got trench foot, put me in the hospital for a couple of weeks, and but overall, it gave me a good outlook on life when I got home. You know, I got home safe. I had all my parts, even though I got wounded. I got all my parts. There's a lot of guys that didn't, and there's a lot of guys that came home really battered up, which I thank God for that, you know. And I belonged to Marine Corps League, and me and our pastor, our guy that, I forget what we call him now. We call him pastor anyway. We used to get out to Bethesda Hospital and visit the Marine wounded. And then the Army took over and messed everything up. So that stopped us real quick. Because we used to give them, really nice, we give them a picnic every month. Texas Roadhouse would bring in steaks, they'd bring the cooks in and cook them. And we were basically trying to feed the wounded Marines and their families. And we had everybody but wounded Marines. And the staff down at Bethesda didn't like that. And they said, we got to feed everybody. So we started asking the medical people that didn't wait on the Marines to pay to help make up this food. And they didn't like that either. So we just shut it down and said, we're here to feed the Marines. You know, that's what we're here for. We're the Marine Corps. We're not here for the Army, not here for the Navy, unless you're a corpsman, you know. And so we just shut everything down. And the bad part is that these guys wounded miss that.
Oh, well, sure.
You know, they had a good time. We see canine dogs come in with their dogs with leg missing or something, and really nice. But I really enjoyed it. I had a good time doing that.
You mentioned that you were wounded. Was that small arms fire or?
No, punji stake in the boot, through my boot, January '66, right before I came home.
Wasn't looking where you were walking, huh?
It was nighttime. We ran a patrol through the village, and we were crossing the stream, and the front of our patrol got small arms fire. And there was like 5 or 6 of us in the back. We hadn't crossed the stream yet. And we ran across the stream, and I just went up the wrong way because they had spring-loaded punji stakes in the sand. And one went through my boot, hit my ankle, came out the other side of the boot.
Okay, it wasn't tipped with anything, right?
Well, we hope not. They put a lot of junk on it to make sure it didn't get infected.
Yeah, okay.
But it wasn't really all that bad to keep me out of action. They sent me back to battalion for 2 days, put more junk on it, wrapped it up like you do a sprained ankle, put my boot back on, and I was out in the field the next day. It wasn't a serious wound, put that away.
Okay. But any other commendations or awards that you received while you were in?
Well, we got the Combat Action Ribbon for being in combat. We got the Presidential Unit Citation for Starlight. And we got the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry Unit for Starlight. And we got the Vietnamese Cross of Civil Action for the things we did in the community to help build, show the guys how to put their community together so everything came together, growing, how to grow things, how to build up your village to keep you from getting hit a lot when they sneak in at night, setting up alarms and stuff like that, so they know that the bad guys coming in to get you, and we did things like that for the community.
So you were there in '65. Was that more defensive at the time as opposed to offensive?
Yes, that's what it was supposed to be. And That's what I say. Starlight was the first offensive.
Right, okay.
We had a guy that turned traitor to the VC, so to speak. He was an overthrow. I forget what they called him, the word for it, but he came in. He said they had a big unit building up to hit July. So our Marine general that came commandant went to Westmoreland. He said, "Hey, we can get a plan up to go down and hit these guys before they hit July," and that's how Starlight got started. Because the guy came back, we got a crossover.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that you would like to talk about while we're here?
Well, if I got any Marine Corps guys looking at this, and if you never heard of the Marine Corps League, we got a Marine Corps League at the American Legion, Post 31. Our detachment is 896. We do a lot for the community, Marine Corps League. And if you see yourself available, ought to come down and see us the first Wednesday of each month and come in and join us. And so we can just get some more fresh blood into our unit so we can do more for the community than what we do now. And also, the community out there, if your kids, you want to put them in the youth program. Right now I'm the XO of Carroll County Young Marines. We meet at the VFW. I'm retiring on the Marine Corps birthday this year. I got like 15 or 20 years in, so I'm going to step down. But I'm still going to stay with your shooting program through Greenbelt at Marriottsville. But if you want to have a good unit for youth, think about the Young Marines.
Okay.
It's a good outfit. We've had all of them go to college. Most of them go to college. We had 2 go to VMI, 2 to Virginia Tech. We have one lady go to the Citadel in South Carolina, and we have 1 go right into the Marine Corps. So we've had a lot of
very
good kids.
worthwhile.
Yes, very.
Okay.
And we don't push military things on them. I mean, they do military, but we don't say, "Hey, you have to go in the Marine Corps." You know, that's up to you.
Okay. Well, I certainly do appreciate your time, and I certainly do thank you for your service, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I'll do it all over again.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.